Thank you, Codebatch, for having me. Very short, my name is Marc Duiker. I work for Xpirit in the Netherlands. I'm an Azure MVP. Usually during the day, I do a lot of Azure stuff, a lot of serverless stuff, which I really like. I also vlog sometimes about serverless. But when the day job is done, and then when it's evening and night, I put on my creative coding cape and I do something else with writing code. So this lightning talk is to explain a bit of what creative coding is and how you can get started with it, because it's really a very broad concept, and there's lots of different ways and lots of different tools how you can get started with it. So I first looked up the definition actually of creative coding, and to the all-knowing Wikipedia, it says it's a type of computer programming in which the goal is to create something expressive rather than something functional. Again, it's a very broad statement, but it definitely makes sense. And you want to express yourself using code and either make some nice visuals or make some nice music or maybe create a game. But actually when you create a game, it's both expressive and still functional because people can actually play the game. And sometimes an expressive form can also be interactive and therefore also functional. So it's a bit of a mix, I think. So I started with creative coding a couple of years ago. And the first thing I came into contact with was a tool called processing. So this is the website of processing. I included lots of QR codes, so please have your camera ready so you can actually scan the QR codes and go to that webpage if you want. Processing exists already for quite some time. I looked up the initial release, and that was in 2001. So this tool has been already around for 19 years, which is amazing. I did not expect that. I only know it about 4 or 5 years. It started out like a desktop client where you can program using Java, but it grew into something much more. So right now you can either use Java, or you can use Python, or you can use JavaScript. And I'm actually going to demonstrate a piece of the JavaScript library, which is called P5.js. So let me switch now to the browser. So this is the website of P5.js. So that's the latest incarnation of processing JavaScript style. It's a very nice website to have an introduction. It's got a nice get started section, reference to the whole API, lots of external libraries, so you can also use other people's code to make even nicer things altogether. But it's very easy to get used to this and to get into this because you actually don't need to install the desktop client anymore. You can actually go straight into this web editor. So I prepared this very small piece of code. Let me just first play it and show you what it can do. So if you press the mouse, you can actually draw something, and it draws circles of various shapes in the color of red. If you let go, it stops drawing. And if you double click, you reset the canvas again. So it's a very tiny script here on the left. So these things are called sketches. So it's the document name of processing. It's called a sketch. And the sketch always have 2 functions. One setup function, which is ran only once. In this case, it's setting the size of the canvas here on the right and setting a background color. And the other function which needs to be there is the draw function. And the draw function is actually run in a loop over and over again, as fast as your computer or browser can handle it. So what we see here is we have a fill method, and then I've used the text red there. So whatever I'm doing drawing in this canvas, and it's a closed shape, that will be filled with the color red. Then there's this if statement that if the mouse is pressed, then I'm executing this code, and this actually creates me a random value for a radius between 10 and 50. And in this line, I'm actually drawing an ellipse of, and then the mouse position is used, the X and the Y position, and the radius to actually draw the ellipse. And finally, when you double click on the canvas, it resets the background, so your canvas is clear again. So it's not even 20 lines of code, and then you can already get started and make something expressive as this, which is always different because you include a bit of randomization in there. Let me show you another example which I made. It's a bit more advanced, but still not a lot of lines of code. I won't go through the entire example, but you can see it's not even 60 lines of code. Let me play it for you. So it's a script I called noise worms. It's also interactive, as you can see. And what it's doing, I'm drawing 3 lines, and they're all made up of circles. And I'm using a special type of noise here. It's called Berlin noise. It's my favorite type of noise. because that noise changes slightly over the course of time. So when I'm moving my mouse upwards, I'm increasing the level of noise. So you can see that the circles are moving more erratically. And when I'm moving the mouse to the left, more and more circles will be drawn per line. So you'll notice that the circles are now overlapping. And when you're at this point, you can see there's really nicely organic shapes and also very nicely organic movements. And that's all thanks to that Berlin noise type. So I could look at it for hours, but let's not do that since it's a lightning talk. Okay, let me switch back to the slides. So processing, if you want to get started with creative coding and like visuals, definitely go for processing. It's very easy to get into. There's a lot of material out there which can get you started. On the website already, you see this video with this guy. He has his own YouTube channel, The Coding Train. I always say you can always determine the quality of your YouTube channel by the banner image. And yeah, this banner image is of course great, a train with a rainbow and all kinds of nice characters. Yeah, this channel has, I think, hundreds and hundreds of very useful videos, because this guy, yeah, all he does is creating videos to explain processing, to explain computer engineering concepts, explain computer graphics. So I highly recommend you to go to this The Coding Train channel and to watch all of his videos, which will probably keep you busy for years. Let's move on to the next one. So if graphics processing is not really for you, but maybe audio and music is, then you can have a look into Sonic Pi. So Sonic Pi is a desktop program. It's cross-platform. It's created by a professor from the University of Cambridge. It's called Sam Aaron. It's open source, freely available, and it's a really fun way to code your music. And it's actually being used also in classrooms to help children learn to program, because it's a very nice feedback loop here you have. You just write a couple lines of code, and if your code works, then you hear a nice sound, you hear a piece of music, and you know your code is working. So let me show you this tool. So here we are in Sonic Pi. So here we see a small script of code. I'm going to run it in a moment. We are setting the speed of the song, to the beats per minute. So it's 80, it's a bit slow. Then we have our first live loop, which I've called beats. And in this loop, we are playing samples. So playing samples is one of the ways you can actually program your music in Sonic Pi. So Sonic Pi already comes with hundreds and hundreds of samples, but you can also use your own samples. In this case, I'm using samples that came with it. In this case, I'm using a bass drum and with a certain amplification, so that's a level how loud it is. So then the sample is followed by a sleep, because if I put lots and lots of samples in a row, they will play simultaneously. And that's not what we want. So I'm playing a bass drum, doing one measure of sleep, then I'm playing another bass drum. But at the same time, when this bass drum is playing, I'm also playing another sample. That's a snare. And here you see another variable that's called the rate. So when we are using samples, we can actually vary the playback rate. So instead of playing it at rate 1, which is normal speed, we can actually slow down the playback rate or increase the playback rate. So let me just run the sample. I'm not sure what the level will be for you, so be careful of your ears. So can you hear that? Yeah, okay, cool. So it's a very, very simple beat. Now I'm going to actually let it play, but then I'm also changing the rate while it actually keep on playing. So now the pitch of the snare will be higher. So now it's higher. So now it will be lower. You can also actually reverse it. This is very nice. You can change your code. The music keeps playing, but then you can refresh your code, and then the changes that you make will be in effect. So this is really an ideal tool to actually do live coding sessions. And that's actually what Sam Aaron is also doing. So Sam has made the software, but he is also performing using his software. I'm co-organizer of serverless days, and we actually had an after party, and Sam Aaron was doing live coding with Sonic Pi. So it's really amazing. You can also apply some effects as well. So now we're doing the same loop, but I'm adding a bit of reverb for the snare, so it will sound more spacious. So this was sample-based, let's say, programming, but there is another thing you can do, and that's using virtual synthesizers. Because samples are nice, but then we can't control the notes and things like that. So another thing that SonicPy lets you do is use synthesizers, and it comes already packed with lots of different types of synthesizers. You can use different wave shapes, and in this case I'm using a double sawtooth wave. And then we see this ring here, and this ring contains all kinds of notes. So these notes will be played in this loop. So the first time we enter the loop, the C2 will be called, then the next time the live loop is called, we'll play the E2, and so on. So let's run this, and it's probably a baseline you're familiar with. I really love that series. It's really cool. The funny thing with rings is you can do some kind of additional things with rings, because now it will play the same loop all over again, because as soon as we end with E2, we'll go back to C2. But what we can also do, we can actually shuffle this ring. So then it will just randomly pick a note from this ring and play that. So it's very easy to add a bit of randomization in there and to make your music much more interesting, without you having to fill out all the notes or the patterns completely. All right. Let's move on to our next subject. Oh, again, I didn't show you that here in the tool itself, but the bottom half of the tool is actually a whole walkthrough of using all of the APIs, using samples, using synthesis. So there's a very extensive help in there already, which is really very useful. In addition to that, there is a very good YouTube channel. The channel is called Introduction to SonicPy, the complete series. It has 30 videos made by a professional musician, Dave Conservatoire, and he also plays a lot of classical instruments like just piano and guitar. But he also has this very nice introduction of using SonicPy. So if you're using, if you like audio and music, I would definitely recommend you to try SonicPy and watch this series. Right. So then the next one, we already talked very briefly before the session, was about game programming. I really like retro gaming lately, and I think I stumbled across it via a message on Twitter. There's this tool and also game engine called Pico 8. It's really, really very funny. It refers to itself as a fantasy console because it's not like a physical Xbox or PlayStation or Switch or whatever. It only exists as software. So some people also try to run it on a Raspberry Pi and then with a small LCD screen, and that will also work, but you cannot buy this as a physical thing. So this is closed source. Yeah, you have to buy it, $15. It's not a lot of money, to be honest, because when you buy this, you get a console. You can play games, but the console is also your editor. So you write your code in there. You can make your sprites in there. You can design your whole game, including music also in there. And with that, you also have access to all games that other people are making and publishing to their website. So for $15, you have this console, your IDE, but also access to thousands and thousands of other games. And the nice thing about those games is you can actually see the source code of those games and also the sprites and the music. So that makes it really easy to mix and match code of those games or sprites of those games to make your own clone of an existing game. So that really enables you to get up to speed quickly and to also share lots of nice things. So let me show you a bit of Pico 8. So this is VS Code. I sometimes use VS Code to actually do the programming part of Pico 8, and you'll soon see why. Oh, so now it's actually booting up. Okay. So this is really a tiny mini game. I wouldn't even call it a game. This is actually, let's say, a digital interactive birthday card for a boy named Finn who became 5 earlier this year. So I sent him this link, and he could then walk around, collect balloons for his 5th birthday. So when we look at the code, so you press escape again. So this is the code editor of Pico 8. So because you are working in a, let's say, a retro console with limited pixels, this is all you have to write your code. So this definitely takes some getting used to. It is actually quite fun. So I used to start in this, and then I went to VS Code because I was more used to that. But now actually going back to this editor. Yeah, it looks very weird. It's really funky, but it also has its charm. You program in Lua, or actually a subset of Lua. I didn't know any Lua. I'm still not very good at it. But the benefit is yeah, the API of Lua, what you actually need, is very limited. So you don't need to learn a lot to get started with it. So this is the code editor. Then this is your sprite editor. So you make all of your drawings. It's 8 by 8 pixels, so it's really small. You only have a very limited color palette, but that's also the charm of it. And so you have a really limited set of code you can write, because there's also a limit to the number of lines and characters you can use. You're also limited code-wise, sprite-wise. This is your game map. You actually draw your whole game. So in this case, it is the birthday card, which I've drawn here. But if you're making a whole adventure game, you want to move to a map, then this will be the place where you draw your whole map. Then it also has a sound editor. So you can just actually draw some notes, play it. So that's really funny. And yeah, this game doesn't have music, but you can also create your own music here in this tracker-based view. So it's really quite extensive. But yeah, it looks needs so retro. It might not be a good fit for everyone. But I really found it very funny to get into this. So if you buy this, you also get some demo games, which explain some concepts, which is nice, but it's definitely not enough to get you started. So again, I'm referring to YouTube. There's this channel called Pico 8. Well, it's a playlist called Pico 8 Hero from Team Workcast. They have 80 videos, and they really explain the whole process, how to make a breakout game from start to end. So this is really good resource if you want to make a complete game with code, graphics, music, sounds, everything. Then finally, Make Code. So I only heard about Make Code during the Microsoft Build conference. So one of the final sessions with Scott Hanselman was around Make Code. And I think it's can be best explained as a kind of educational programming platform. You can either make it to make retro games, but you can also use it to make your own IoT projects, because it also connects with all kinds of hardware components from Adafruit, for instance. I'm focusing now on the arcade game part. So the website is arcade.makecode.com. Let me also switch to that. Yeah. Oh. So this is the website. It comes with all kinds of tutorials already. You can create a new project. Directly after build, I immediately made a project in just one evening. And as you can see, it's block-based. So maybe some of you know Scratch. So this is built on the same basis on Blockly. So you can just click and drag all kinds of components in there. It also comes with its own editor. So again, you can make your nice sprites there. So this is also very easy to get into this. So that's why it's also an educational platform. It's also very easy for kids to start programming with it. But if blocks is maybe too limiting for you, it automatically generates JavaScript. So you can also just maybe start with blocks, but then continue to JavaScript to have some more control. And like I said, you have lots of building blocks. It integrates with all kinds of other hardware components. So I think the next one of my projects will be actually to use it with a Raspberry Pi and some LEDs and stuff like that. Right, so this is the screenshot we just seen. So that was a very quick overview of what I've been doing with creative coding over the last couple of years. I'm not saying that everybody should do creative coding, but maybe after your day job, you're already sick and tired of sitting behind a computer screen. And I'm definitely not doing this every day or even every week, but every couple of months, every year, I find something else that is nice. So I started with visuals, with processing, then moved on to Sonic Pi, now doing more Pico 8 stuff and pixel art stuff. So yeah, for me, it changes actually year by year what I like. But there's a lot of fun things out there. So it's really refreshing. And what I really like about it is, yeah, it's fun for me, but I've also found it quite often that people will also like really what I've made, because I've made this Azure Functions game, and a lot of people are really like that game as well. So that's also nice for me, that I get some appreciation of the games you make. So if you want to play the Azure Functions game, you can go to marcduiker.is.io. So there's the game. If you want to have more information, feel free to contact me on Twitter. I'll also join the Discord server again after this talk. You can ask me questions there if you want. And yeah, some shameless self-promotion. I'm making these 8-bit retro art portraits for a lot of people on Twitter. And I really get a lot of requests now, which is nice. But if you want your own 8-bit avatar, just buy me a coffee and I'll make you a personalized avatar. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Marc. Can we have a candid contributions clap, please? Woo!
Yeah, sorry, I was going to on mute. Yeah.
Hard to make noise in the virtual sphere, but my goodness, that was amazing,
Thanks.
Marc. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Pleasure.
That was immense fun. I think that it's one of those things that I mean, I have an Arduino here, I've got a Raspberry Pi. I keep picking it up and putting it away again because, you know, you think, okay, my day job's finished and now I'm going to relax. And quite often I'll have my laptop open anyway because I'll be playing games on Steam, but, you know, not engaging with that creative side of coding. I love, you talked about the constraints in Pico 8, how the limitations, but I've always found that limitations actually make us incredibly creative.
Exactly. Yeah. No, indeed. So the maker of Pico 8 is need very clever to actually enforce all those limitations, because they don't need to be there, because it's of course a virtual thing. But it also needs very clever to make it so. So you really have to find workarounds or make your pixel art drawings in such a way that looks a bit realistic or compelling. So it really helps the creative process to actually be limited in certain ways.
Yeah, and it makes us better developers too, because we're always working within scopes, we're always working within specifications, and so we have those limitations. They're just not fun ones. This is one.
True. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
They're very rarely fun ones.
Yeah.
I think we had a couple of questions. Are you happy to answer a question now? Sure. I mean, it's great on Instagram.
If you have time. Sure.
So Lars, do you want to ask your question with your voice, or shall I read it out for you?
No, I can ask. I've been experimenting just a wee bit with Sonic Pi for now, and I also checked out Tidal Waves a few years ago. Which is Haskell. But as far as I understood, they both use SuperDirt, the synthesizer.
Super Collider, I think it's called.
Super Collider,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, indeed.
So the question was whether you know whether you can control that synthesizer a bit more from Sonic Pi, because I know you could do a lot with Tidal, but Sonic is kind of easier to get going with.
Yeah, indeed. No, I haven't played around with that, to be honest. No, the thing actually I'm looking into now is, because I also have some hardware gear, is I want to actually control my hardware synthesizers using MIDI from Pico 8.
Yes.
But I never actually got into more the virtual synthesis from Sonic Pi side.
All right. But we're in the childhood of these kind of technologies anyway, so it's bound to happen.
Exactly. But yeah, lots of room to explore, definitely. That's really fun.
Cool.
Thank you, Lars. And so thank you so much, Marc, for joining us. Stick around. We'll all have a chat later. I hope you can drink a lot of coffee, because I think people are going to be buying you coffees. I want one of those avatars.
Emma, I was just wondering if we had any feedback from our youngest viewer, because we had.
Oh, Gwendolyn. How old is Gwendolyn?
I think Gwendolyn is 8. She was 8, 6. I'm not sure. Jevon?
She's 7. She said 10 out of 10. She loved it.
Cool. Nice.
Amazing.
I love the
Tough
feedback.
crowd.
Especially the music. She loves some beats. So she says she wants that installed on her laptop now.
Cool.
Oh, it's so cool. We used to do it at Coder Dojo, like the Code Club for kids. The Sonic Pi stuff. They love it.
Nice.
And did you see your audience dancing while you were presenting? I hope you managed to see us all having.
No, unfortunately not. No, I should have switched this view back, but I was too focused on my talk.
Guaranteed we were, I promise. Thank you, Mark, once again.
Cool.
Thank you very much.